It just seemed like you had everything that I was looking for. It was a blueprint to success.
Today, guys, we're going to talk with one of my patients, Chris, and we're going to talk a little bit about his experience with Summa Up. So, Chris, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Chris. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I have a family of 2 children, a 6-year-old and a 1-year-old, that keep me very active and busy. And, I'm married to a beautiful wife. And we just moved down here to Texas out of Michigan. So we're kind of happy to be in a state where there's a lot more sunshine than 8 months of cloudiness. Retired from the military, 25 years, still a pilot, helicopter pilot, looking at continuing commercially and also just venturing out into other businesses.
For my first question, I'm going to ask you a little bit about your experience with starting up with Summa Up. So I want you to draw back to when you were still in the initial decision phase. And I want you to think about what it was like. What problems were you trying to solve exactly? And I want you to be specific. Were there certain issues in terms of your business, your health, your family dynamics? Like, what was off that you needed to fix?
Yeah, no, it's great. Yeah, I think the biggest thing, or a couple of the biggest things, were lack of energy, lack of clarity and focus, mental fogginess, just not having a lot of energy in the tank after a day of work, whether it's homeschooling kids or just literally, doing work, external work, either in the military or even in retired life, trying some different business ventures. It just wasn't all together the way I felt like I used to remember myself in my 20s and 30s. And I just knew something was off, but it became such the norm that I think you just get used to it. I wasn't who I wanted to be. I didn't have the energy and the clarity that I wanted to have. And I wanted to be more physically fit and active with my family.
Let's talk a little bit about that person that you want to be, that what I like to refer to as your ideal performance state. So there is this gap, there is this juncture that needed to be bridged, right, between your current state and your ideal performance state. So tell me a little bit more about that. It sounds like you had some ideas for your business, you're homeschooling your daughter. What exactly did you have in mind that you wanted to accomplish, but you weren't able to because of your current mental and physical state?
Yeah, I would just say, one was just being able to even keep up with the family, right? I mean, having the help with the household, having the help with schooling, you don't realize how much being in the military, it takes a lot of energy, but it's just a different form of energy than when you have little kids and trying to, mold them into something that required a lot of extra energy that sometimes I just felt ill prepared for, just because of being tired, right? And the mood and that puts you in, and being able to kind of organize everything. And then on top of that, having to start looking at nonprofits or, how to broach different things in the commercial aviation industry. How can I expand a safety business or a commercial enterprise? Where I wanted to see myself was obviously perform on the home front, be able to knock all that stuff out of the park, but then also carve out 3 or 4 or 5 solid hours of just really focused attention on where do I want to take our business ideas, or again, professional enhancements, whether it's getting my commercial pilot's license for the instrument rating, so I can actually jump into jets, those types of things. So to me, that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be able to start saying, hey, I already know how to fly helicopters. How can I actually start doing some more commercial enterprise level work that can take me out of the 9 to 5 and more into kind of coaching and mentoring other like-minded folks into a more of a sustainable business model.
Very cool. Yeah. And I think with any individual, any entrepreneur that's just starting a new business, there's a tremendous amount of energy input that's needed at the beginning. And so manifesting that, channeling those resources is pretty difficult. The next thing I wanted to ask was, you had mentioned that you had, and I like the words you utilized, you'd kind of fallen into this rut where you were okay with your declining energy levels and your mental clarity, and you were able to kind of, to make do. But what was it that made you say, hey, you know what, this is unacceptable? Like, was there like an inciting event that made you finally be like, all right, I need to go seek treatment. I need to do something about this?
Yeah, I think when I actually saw pictures of myself that, again, I wasn't obscenely overweight by any stretch, but definitely when my family even made remarks of years ago what I looked like, and then what I look like now, you just can really start telling the body transformation that it's a slippery slope and very easy to not see, because you look at yourself in the mirror every day. You don't notice the changes necessarily over the course of a year or 2 years. But I think that started my journey to say something's definitely off, because I have love handles now, and then I would just say, particularly, probably being very honest, just my emotional state with my family, being very agitated, very easy to being frustrated, and not my normal self that I wanted to be, and what I used to remember to be, where it just seemed like I just was very easy to be agitated. And that's obviously not a good place to be when you have a young family. So yeah, I think that's probably is when I had to take a hard look in the mirror and go, something's not right with sleep, diet, or all of the above. And I need to just nip it in the bud.
Yeah, I can totally understand that. With young children, you need to have a lot of patience, particularly if you want to parent them appropriately. And with your background in the military, I imagine when you first started, you're very, very fit. And seeing that change is probably a big issue. Mm-hmm. Okay, so how did you find out about us? What initially prompted you to be like, well, hey, this guy seems interesting?
I liked the aspiring videos, the testimonies of people. The layout just made sense to me, what you were offering as far as, consulting and just being able to put it in a nice, tidy package. It just seemed like you had everything that I was looking for. It was a blueprint to success. I can work hard, I can play hard, and if I have a map to follow, I'll go and capture the flag at the end of it. So it just made a lot of sense to me as a military guy.
Yeah, I'm really happy you touched upon that, because that's something we really try to focus on in the clinic: accountability and displaying or having a treatment plan. We like to call it your longevity blueprint. I like that term, where basically the goal is to ensure that you reach your ideal performance state, mental and physical, of course, but at the same time, radically reduce your risk for developing chronic illnesses, heart disease, stroke, kidney disease, diabetes, all of those things. Because obviously you can be in great shape, and if you succumb to a heart attack in your 50s, what is it worth for? You did mention something that is quite true. There are a lot of options out there in terms of working with providers or longevity clinics. What made you think, hey, Dr. Ryan is a good option for me, Summa Up is a great clinic for me personally?
Well, I think one, your own testimony, right? Your background, what you've done. Obviously, the proof is in the pudding. And, you put yourself out there with the pictures and how you've won your own physique competitions. I think that's a great thing, because, right? I mean, you could be unhealthy yourself and market because you have the knowledge, but if you don't follow your own blueprint, then how, can you expect someone else to? So I think that, just like any leader, right? If you want people to follow you, you have to kind of walk the walk and talk the talk.
I think the best leaders are ones that eat their own cooking, so to speak, and try to present an example for their flock, right? Like they're trying to basically be a paradigm for them. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, because certainly I'm not, but I do, take my health very seriously, and it really helps out in terms of taking care of patients, because I can relate with them, right? When I first started my fitness journey, I by no means was very athletically inclined, and my situation with dealing with low testosterone levels was something that was quite difficult and challenging, and that's really helped me empathize with a lot of my patients. So let's talk a little bit about your experience after you joined a couple months in, and some of the changes you noticed. So let's focus primarily on your physical appearance. Like, what changes did you notice in your body and overall health?
One, energy levels. I mean, even with a matter of 2 or 3 weeks, you could just tell, like, cutting out a lot of the sweets, cutting a lot of the processed foods, and really starting to be truly clean. I just saw a massive increase in clarity and just energy levels. And then in my body, just even from like a puffiness and an inflammatory kind of state, I would say within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I was now just even slimmer in the face. I would say it took a little bit of time. I mean, I lost a lot of weight, probably for me, again, it wasn't super big, but I think I'd lost like 8 pounds within the first couple of weeks, and then it slowed down. But then I've lost 16 pounds in 3 months. And for a guy who's already kind of skinnier in nature, that was a huge thing to go back from I think I was up to like a 33 plus waistline for, again, I'm not a very big guy. I'm a thin frame guy. to a 31 waistline. So, I mean, that's a huge difference that I've noticed. I'm back down the pants that I wore when I was in my 20s.
We're going to really try to focus on getting some more definition in your abdominals. And then, of course, putting on some muscle mass as what you had mentioned. But yeah, I'm really very, very impressed with your results. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about some of the changes you saw in terms of your career plans. Now, you had mentioned that you were working to create a consulting firm for pilots. So what changes have you made in regards to this, or what steps have you made towards that endeavor?
Yeah, so I've definitely been able to kind of broaden out my network finally, and have the motivation to start contacting folks on the outside that I know, and that's the biggest thing, I guess, with any consulting or any kind of expansion of a business, is finding the right people that are available and have the prerequisites to be able to help bring in future clients. So that really is the biggest thing that I've changed. Is I went from being unmotivated or not being able to find the time to actually starting to really hone in on what do I want for the business plan, what do I want to be able to do with it, and then who do I want to start building that team with. So that's been the biggest thing over the last couple months, is getting the household in order, getting the homeschooling thing knocked out, and getting everything in such a place where I really feel comfortable that I can start focusing a lot more energy on the business plan, and also starting to get my name in the hat for those professional enhancement courses. That is what I really need, because based on my background in the military, you only get so much. Now I've got to actually start broaching out to what is it like to be in the civilian commercial industry.
Well, a saying that my advisors in medical space would tell me was, small hinges swing big doors, right? And you're making those small steps, which will lead to some pretty big changes. But remember, you need to make the initial steps, right? And I'm really happy that now you have the energy to draw upon to push forward. And I expect this is going to be a really, really lucrative and wonderful business for you. As I've seen with a lot of my patients who've started consulting businesses or watched their businesses grow 200, 300%. Okay, now let's focus a little bit on the change in your relationships with your family. And as you mentioned, you needed to get a fair amount of energy to homeschool your daughter, but what other changes have you seen with your family?
My relationship with my wife has been really, it's been good, but definitely has been a lot better, because now it's not just we're surviving and keeping the head, just floating above the waterline, but really been able to start taking the family out and more stuff, just focus on her, since the kids are now taken care of. And I think the interactions are much better too. It's a much more cordial, less of a hot spots, flaring up every now and then, and being able to kind of deal with it probably with more of a mature attitude versus just a quick reaction due to really having no energy left and just trying to deal with it from an emotional basis. So I would say it really has changed the family dynamic in a positive way.
And I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because many of my patients don't recognize how much hormonal optimization can really affect their mood and affect their personality. Optimizing things like your testosterone levels, DHEA, your estrogen levels, pregnenolone, are really, really key to ensuring you have both mental clarity and sustained focus, but at the same time have a nice, smooth emotional state, right? Fluctuations in those hormones can make a big difference. So I'm really happy to see the manifestation of optimized hormone balance, with your family, which is great. Or were there any other benefits that came with working with Summa Up? Anything outside of changes in terms of your career plans, your family, your relationship? Have you been able to develop new hobbies that you weren't able to pursue?
I don't have the space yet, so that's where we're in the kind of design and building phase. But it's been nice to be able to start looking at this house that we just bought and kind of figuring out the footprint of fixing it all up. And we're doing a lot of yard work, and it sounds funny, but making space I made a gym. So that was the first big thing. Is I have now an actual legitimate, not a lane, but like a gym that can do everything that was required for the program. And so now the next phase is to slowly build out a workshop so that I can actually start ideally taking the family and start, building, whether it's dirt bikes or go-kart kits, things like that. So we can start having family projects that actually enhance their own scientific and engineering background. So it helps supplement with their education and our bonding time.
That's really awesome. I know that you're doing a lot of homeschooling, so I guess this will give you an opportunity to do a lot of like practical type experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe start a spark in your daughter and your son's mind in regards to maybe like a STEM career or whatever they would like to pursue,
Mm-hmm.
which is really amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to end on this question. What would you tell someone who is watching this now and is uncertain about joining the clinic? What would you tell them to help make a decision in regards to moving forward, perhaps?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me, money is money, right? You can spend it on drinks and other things that are superfluous, really, that don't matter the most. And to me, the biggest thing I would say is just go do it. If it's a money thing, and if you have the money, you're not going to waste it. This is the best investment you can possibly make because it's in your health. You could be a multimillionaire and have lots of money and be unhealthy. Well, you're not going to be as happy as spending a little bit on yourself and actually have a long, fruitful, and healthy life where you can enjoy everything to its maximum potential. So to me, that's the biggest thing is just go do it. You have nothing to lose other than getting better health, and who doesn't want that?
Well, thanks so much, Chris. I really appreciate you sharing your experience, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you're welcome, Dr. Ryan. Have a great weekend.